All right, welcome everyone to New Hampshire's GEG Google Hangout for February 2017. This month's topic is Google Hangouts. We always use Google Hangout to share our information, but we may not have necessarily focused on the tool that much, and so that's what we're doing this month. And we have two people joining. We have Jen Loughton, of course, our co-New Hampshire GEG leader, and we have a newcomer, very first time in an actual live hangout. Her name's Chris O'Hara. Welcome, Chris. Chris is a dean for the high school that I work at, and she's going to share her perspective on the administrative side. So, but before we actually dive into Google Hangouts and all the things that you can do, both in the classroom setting, administrative setting, and the live setting, we want to highlight some upcoming events. We usually do this at the end, but we're going to flip it and do it at the beginning before we dive into the good stuff. So, Jen, do you want to take it away?
Yep, I'll go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. If you can click on my square. So let's see. First, I'm going to show the agenda. Do you see the screen for my agenda right there?
We do, yep.
Okay, and so we'll be sharing out the link. Here's the link to the agenda today with the information. Anything that we're sharing will be up on here. But one of the great things that we wanted to announce were some of the upcoming events, such as February 22nd, and it's now actually in, I love this about Google Docs, I can quickly fix, because it was just announced that it's now in Lunenburg, Mass, and I hope I'm spelling that right. It's now in Lunenburg, Mass, the MassQ Google Palooza. I will be there, Jen Sheffer, Jen Judkins, Jonathan Schmidt, and several other trainers and consultants will be there for the MassQ Google Palooza. Also, Milford is having an apps events coming up. You have to check out the appsevents.com website. They have a Google Educator L1 bootcamp coming up. Also here at Winnicott, we are having an April 1st Google Admin Bootcamp. And of course, in July will be the Google Summit, but this year held for the first time in Litchfield at Campbell High School. And what I wanted to announce, I'm very excited, and this is only for those of you who are members of the NHGEG and follow the NHGEG community online. Allison Malika from AppsEvent, we love Allison, and she's going to be joining us in an event in the near future. She has announced a discount for all NHGEG, so you have to be an NHGEG community follower member, but here's the code right here for $30 off your registration of the July Summit in Campbell High School in Litchfield this year. So we're really excited about that. Just supporting our Google Educator group here in New Hampshire. So if you are attending and you are a member and you're thinking about going, right here's the code for $30 off your registration. So we're really excited about that, and we wanted to share that those events that are coming up in the near future. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it back to Craig. There we go.
Perfect.
All set?
And I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe NIST just sent out an email not too long ago about an event coming up on STEM, I think.
Okay, yes, you're right, and I'll bring that up. I did forget.
I just, I just thought of it. I'm like, is there something else? I think there might be, but I think is that in April?
Yes, I'm bringing it up right now. You're so good. You always remember and remind me. Let's see, their events. It is the... Here we go.
I think the focus was on STEM. They had mentioned.
I think so too. For some reason, it's not coming. Oh, upcoming events. Let's see. Yes, it's STEAM Ahead, April 13th, 2017. And actually, I'll bring that up on the screen really quick because now that I have it.
And I think that's typically in Bedford at Ceres.
Correct, and I'm going to bring it up right now. You're so good. Here we are. Can you see it on the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here it is, the NIST.org. They have their TT-SIG events that they do every year, and here it is, April 13th. They'll be doing this event right here, STEAM Ahead, and here's the information for that event, if you will. And this, the one I have right here is for the exhibitors, but you can go to NIST.org to find this event. And
perfect.
Stop. And
I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. We might, if we're missing something, let us know, folks. and we'll make sure we include it next time. So we're going to transition to Hangouts. And for Hangouts, I think those of you who've not used a Hangout before, it's just a great opportunity to have a collaborative space to work with others. Many different ways that it can be applied. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jen, that if you're using a non-school domain account, I believe you're tied to 15 is the max.
That's what it was. I'm going to double check right now and see if that's
Okay. And I believe on the education side, it's either 25 or 30. It's somewhere around there. But it's a great opportunity where you can talk with others, where you may not be able to be with one another in a particular place. And I know that Chris O'Hare is going to talk about how she was really able to use that. And I think a lot of people are familiar with FaceTime. A lot of people are familiar with Skype. But what's great about Google Hangouts is it's tied to your Google account. It's a one-stop shop. And you're not like, oh, let me go launch this application, or let me go get, oh, does that person have an iPhone, or does that, as long as you have a computer or a mobile device, you can actually use this tool. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to stop rambling. Chris is going to start talking.
You're correct. The limit is 15.
What's that?
The limit is 15. You are correct.
Okay, perfect. So Chris, why don't you talk about how you got started on using Hangout?
Sure. So I started using it last spring. It was probably April or May, and I actually had gone to Craig. I know he mentioned we work at the same high school, because I was doing interviewing for teaching positions. And I actually went to him. It had been a while since I had interviewed someone from a distance, and said, is Skype the easiest way to interview? So of course his response was, no, we have one-stop Google. So he showed me how to use it, and it was actually much easier than having to have a Skype account and worry about dialing numbers, because I manage everything right through my calendar. So what was very cool about that is I interviewed 4 people at quite a distance that probably I would not have had the opportunity to interview had I not used Google Hangouts. So I had a teacher from Florida, a teacher from Washington State, a teacher from Michigan, and believe it or not, a teacher who worked for QSI, or Quality Schools International, who was over in Slovakia. And I was able to interview them without any problems. It was really nice. It was flexible. So a couple things that I really like about it are really clear communication. Like, I did not have any dropping out or background noise or interference or anything. The interviews actually were very smooth. One of the things that I did notice was the lag time. That was a learning experience for me, because at the very beginning of the interview, there were times where I would cut them off or they would cut me off. So we had to get used to the lag time actually and the interview process. But once we figured that out, it was absolutely fine. And one other thing is when I'm going to demonstrate this in a minute, but when I had actually set up one of the interviews, I said, we'll do a Google Hangout. He had used Google Hangout, and I was just learning how to use Google Hangout, but we went to the Hangout at the time the interview was supposed to be, and he wasn't there. I didn't see him, so I sent a quick email and I said, I'm here. Did you have second thoughts? Are you still able to interview today? And he's like, I'm here too. And so what we actually figured out is that I had shared a link with him in a calendar. He didn't click on that link. He just went into Hangout. So we were hanging out, but we were in 2 separate Hangouts because we didn't click on the same link. And so that was a really it was a great learning experience for me to avoid that. So I'm just going to show you a little bit how easy it is to set up, because I manage all of when I did this for interviewing, I managed all of it through my Google Calendar. I had the interviews set up, a week or 2 before the interviews actually took place. So when it was time for the interview, all I had to do is go back into that appointment that I had set on my calendar and click on a link. So I'm going to share my screen here with you and show you how easy that is to set up. So let me actually get into my calendar here. Whoop, sorry. I opened my email instead of my calendar. So are you able to see my calendar at this point?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So if I wanted to set up an interview for tomorrow at 11 o'clock with Craig, I would just go to my calendar and I would create an appointment here from 11 to 12. And I'm just going to type in interview with Sheil. I'm going to create that appointment. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit it. And so all I have to do over here is I'm going to add my guests like I would if I had an appointment in the building, as if they were coming here for an interview. And I'm just going to invite Craig. And I'm going to click save. So it's going to send him an invitation. And then now it's tomorrow, 11 o'clock. What I need to make sure I'm clear with when I set up the interview is say to Craig, go into the interview appointment that I sent you, and you're going to see a link. So right over here on the left-hand side, it says video call. If I click on that video call, it's going to start a Hangout. So it will tell me I'm in a Hangout, you're waiting for your guest to arrive, and when Craig clicks on that, then he would actually be in the same Hangout I'm in. This was the piece we missed. We both went to Google, but he didn't click the link. So that's how easy it is to set up. It really, you know, you're not doing anything new, you're just clicking on the appointment. The one thing that I wasn't sure about actually, and figured out how to do this as well, is did somebody have to have a Gmail account? So you can have a, I'm going to come back into here for a second. You can actually have a, you can ignore all of those windows there. You can have anybody, whether they have a Gmail account or a Comcast account or any kind of an email account, join a Google Hangout with you. If it's a Gmail account and they click the link, they're automatically going to get into the Hangout. If it's an outside organization, I, as the person who set up the Hangout, will get notification that somebody from outside of my organization is trying to join my network, and do I give them permission? So there's one extra step if the email is not a Gmail account, but anybody from any, you know, any kind of platform or browser can actually join. It doesn't have to be a Gmail account. You just have to know you have that extra step. So a couple other things that I actually didn't know at the time, but I do know now, is there's this chat down here on the right-hand side that if I were having hearing issues and for some reason somebody's, you know, their mic maybe is muted and I didn't know that it was muted, I could actually come down here and type a message that says, you know, I can't hear you. And then there's a chat up here. They can see that I'm actually sending a message to them. So if there is technical difficulties, again, I didn't have that other than the lag time, which was just getting used to. It's really neat to be able to have that chat so that if you have technical issues or, you know, the screen freezes or something, you could try to actually use chat and see if you can problem solve. The other thing that you're able to do is you can actually share a document through this feature over here on the right. So if I go into my Drive and I want to share a document, or maybe I want a teacher to share with me a lesson plan that they've used, what I can do is, you know, I can just go into any document here and I can open it. And then are you able to see the document?
Yep.
Yep. So there's the document actually, and I can walk through a document with somebody at that point, or they could explain to me different parts of the lesson that, you know, sometimes when teachers go in for an interview, what they would do is bring in, you know, a portfolio of some of the lessons they've done or rubrics that they've created. So just because this is a Google Hangout, you don't lose the capability of actually sharing important documentation that you would share in person. And so in that way, you know, you're not at any kind of a disadvantage doing this through Google Hangout rather than in person.
Sure.
You know, one of the other things that...
Now, Chris, can I stop you for 1 second?
You can.
So let's say you wanted to share that link to others. I believe you can do that right in that chat window, correct?
Yes.
So
Yep.
if you go back to, can you show us that real quick?
I can. So right down here, there's a little drive. There's a link to Drive. So I can do that, and then I can, let me pull one up quick.
Maybe share the Feb 2017 agenda.
Yeah, I'll actually do that while you're talking, Chris.
Oh, there you go. Yep. So you can click on the link down here. I was going to say, one of the other things when we do our interview process, where this really benefited us, is that we actually have a series of 3 interviews. So I do an interview, and then people who move on to the next phase will interview with the principal. And then when we get to finalists, we send them to the SAU, and they meet with our assistant superintendent. So even if someone is coming, you know, from Michigan and they're willing to fly in for an interview, you know, if there's a follow-up the following week and then the week after that, at some point, it becomes kind of counterproductive and cost prohibitive for somebody to be able to do that over and over again. And so you know, if it's a multi-step process, I actually had showed the principal and the assistant superintendent how to do this as well. So they were able to interview with some of these candidates after I did. And so again, it was really efficient and pretty easy to do.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, one of the other things actually that I really wouldn't have thought about actually was the difference in time zones and how flexible this is and how convenient it was. So I'm interviewing somebody from Slovakia. There was a 5-hour time difference. So his end of the school day, I'm not at work either. So he was at work. I was actually at home sitting on my couch because it was 8 o'clock at night when he was able to actually do the interview. So there is that added flexibility of you can take the computer anywhere, and it doesn't have to be necessarily the same time. It's just a time that works for both of you. So with that time zone difference, that was actually worked to my advantage. It was really helpful.
Awesome.
Yeah. So thank you, Craig, for showing me how to do that.
Now, before you actually unshare your screen,
Yeah.
As you notice right now, because right now Chris's screen is being shown, if she moves her cursor all the way over to the left, you see that there's that column that shows up.
Yeah.
Wait, so Craig, can you click on her screen because it's on your face is coming up right now.
Oh, you're right. How about now? Is that better?
Close out of something?
Is that better?
Yeah.
So, well, actually, maybe I need to talk about it because then it's, yeah. So actually, do you mind unsharing your screen, Chris?
Nope, not at all.
Okay.
Right, because the audio is taking over.
Yeah, the audio will take over with me. Okay. So, all right.
There's a teachable moment about the audio.
No. Do you guys see multiple windows?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so just ignore that. I know that's awkward because we're like showing a Hangout in the Hangout. But as I move my cursor over to the left, right over here along the side are your different options. So typically whenever you start a Hangout, you don't have that chat that shows up on the right-hand side. So when you want to be able to like actually converse with others and actually type, you'll want to come up to the top and select the chat icon, and that's then when that pulls up on the side. And then to share the screen, how are we actually doing this so that instead of showing our face, it's showing our screen? We're just selecting the one underneath it where it just says share screen. And by doing that, then you have the ability for people to see what you want them to see. So in the case of Chris interviewing a teacher, if the teacher wanted to showcase a lesson that they had done, they can choose to screen share, show their screen, and then pull up the Google Doc that she was mentioning. Or if it's easier to not do that and the teacher doesn't feel savvy enough to figure that out, you can always then pull the link on the side and everyone just clicks that link and then sees it on their own computer. So I think it's important for people to know that, you know, this tool can be used beyond the classroom. And in fact, Chris was talking about our snow days that we had not too long ago, right, Chris? Remember that conversation?
I do.
So do you guys see my screen? Do you see a tweet?
Yeah.
Okay, so this was actually tweeted out 2 days ago, I believe. So this is a superintendent from Pelham School District actually talking about how their leadership team worked together even though the offices were closed. And you can see in the picture that their staff all joined a hangout, and it looks like they collaboratively were working on whatever they were doing. And so it's just a matter of people being familiar and comfortable with using this type of tool where you literally can have productive meetings, conversations online without physically always having to be with the people next to you. And that doesn't mean that, oh, we're saying that you shouldn't interact with people. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying that in certain situations, it might make more sense instead of people driving 2 hours to come in to, do a hangout. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Jen.
Sorry, helps if I unmute. I was actually going to share a really some examples of some things that popped up where we used a hangout, when all of a sudden we just realized, how are we going to do this? We went, oh, let's use a hangout. The other day we had to do some training, and the training needed to be done in small chunks, and the groups need to be in small groups. And so what we decided to do was, and actually, is it okay if I show how we start a live event in YouTube, how we do that?
Sure,
So,
yeah, if you want to do that, go for it.
Yep, I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share.
So what Jen is going to, while she's setting that up, what Jen's going to show is exactly what we do every month when we are getting ready to actually to do a live feature that people can see, whether live at that time or see on their own time. So so what Chris O'Hara just showed you was, hey, this is just between me and another teacher, or me and a couple other people. I just set it up in Calendar. So Jen's now going to show you a different way by which you can use the same tool, but to actually record.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
And do you have the thumbnail clicked on so can she see my screen as well?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
So here is our action, just so you know, for those of you who do follow us in the Google Plus communities, this is our YouTube channel right here. And this is where we have all of our past Hangouts from this year and last school year. So this is our YouTube channel. So when you go to your YouTube channel, what you do, and there's a couple ways you can go, but normally I click on my channel because I find this way just doesn't move when they do a lot of updates. And then I go to Video Manager.
I do the same thing you do.
Okay. It's just those two I know never move. That's why I always go that way.
Don't say never. Don't say never.
I've been lucky so far. Okay. So anyways, I go to Video Manager. Now this is where you can, yes, see your videos that you've uploaded or done. But if you come over here to the left, you'll see live streaming. And if you click and drop down, there's two options. One is Stream Now, and we should see Craig come up in a minute because he's the thumbnail for the live stream we're doing right now. There he is. And you can do something called Events. So Stream Now means we're going to start one. Events means you can schedule it, and you can schedule when it's going to happen. You can put information about it and so forth. And so what we had was a training, and we said, how are we going to set this up so that we can have the training in small groups and so that we can have it available for others who miss it today, because it's our only one shot to do this training. We don't have any other time built in. So we said, well, let's do a YouTube live event. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's right. And they said, well, do we have to have a lot of people join? I said, actually, you can be the only one in there if you want. So he actually recorded himself while he was training. And so he came over here, and he for that one hit Stream Now, but he could have scheduled it. And he set up the event, and really you just come over here, whether you come to Stream Now or you come to Events, and you just click on New Live Event. I'm not going to set it up because we're in one right now, but you actually just click on that, and you can put some information about it. And what's
do you mind actually showing? Because I don't think it'll affect if we just schedule one.
Now you say that, but I'm in as the GEG.
Okay. All right.
Let me switch to me. Let me switch to me and see if that'll do
right.
it.
Yeah. Let's, because I think this is a valuable thing. Yeah. Go ahead. Okay. Yeah, that should work.
Okay. So now I'm going to click New Live Event. And you can give it a title, and this one was Power School. training. Oh, look how I'm typing. But type
It's all
better
good.
than me.
We don't
Start
judge.
school training on course selection. Because we wanted to have it available for the teachers or parents or board members, the ones that could not be there. And and then you can put the time, you can schedule whatever time you're going to start it at. And you can also put an end time to schedule it to end at a specific time. You can put a description in here.
And I've actually not done end time because there have been instances where we've actually gone over the time.
Yes, we have.
So I usually me personally, I tend to not do an end time.
Right. And I've done the end times on a purpose, but I kind of fit in. I'll tell, okay, we're going to end at 7, and I make it 7:10 because
Sure.
I find that happens as well.
Yep.
Over here, you can decide instantly if you want that video to be public so everyone can see it. That goes to your channel or searches. For the training ones we do in the school, we usually choose unlisted, which means if you give the link or post a link on a website or whoever you share the link with, they'll see it. But you can also, if you want, you're doing one that you can keep it private as well, and that's up to you. Normally, if we do something school related, we set it to unlisted. So when we share the link, then they'll see it. But if it's something like this that we want people to join in, we set it to public. You can also come to advanced settings, and there's some, like, for instance, I enable live chat so people can ask questions. And right now the live chat is up. Those of you who are watching, you can see that there's a live chat box on the right-hand side because we had this checked right here. You can block spam messages. I like that setting too. You can select a language. Do you want to promote the channel and so forth? And this one, I like to have the video statistics so we can see who's watching and so forth. So those are some of the major settings that I do. Go ahead.
You mind sliding right down towards the bottom of the page?
Absolutely.
Something that I've been doing a lot of looking and researching is I like that there's a 360 video component right there. So you can, if you have the right tools, you can actually record a live 360 experience. So that's something interesting to note. But then the other thing, if back to basic, Jen.
Yep. I'm clicking as fast as I can.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Oh, the type, I usually select quick, the Google Hangout on air. I don't know if you've ever changed that, but no,
I've done either one.
Okay.
I think it just, like the quick, it just gives you some quick settings. I like to go through with but you're right. So if you just want to do it the first time, quick is like easy, the basic settings. And if you're like, no, I really want to customize, then go through. First time, he's absolutely right. I would choose quick the first time setting it up. And then from there, you can set up to automatically share to any of your channels. You have linked to your accounts. Like I have it set to share automatically to the Google+, but you can also set it to share to your Twitter account as well if you check right here. I'm not going to go live right now only because I'm in an event. Yeah. But anyway, in a moment I hit that, what you'll see, and I'm going to actually switch accounts, you'll see this little thumbnail show up. Let me go back to Stream Now and Events. There we go. And you'll see this little thumbnail, and you'll see where a button will say Start Hangout. So you'll actually have a button right here where you can start the Hangout on air. If it stops for any reason, you can hit Resume. And there's also this nice little live control room, which I do come to, and that's why Craig and I do this together, because one of us can be coming here to the control room and we can check the analytics on who's watching, who's played it back, that sort of thing. You can also come down to see the live chat view of what the public view of it down here. I'm not going to do that because we'll have too many sound competing with one another. So you can come down here and also open the public view. But I do come down here and I do an analytics to see who's watching, the playback, that sort of thing. Also really good. And luckily we have not had this happen yet. Where's some wood? But there's a broadcast alert. So if something happens, this will automatically broadcast to anyone who's like subscribed to watch, or anyone who it would automatically broadcast on this event that's been canceled. There's a delayed start. This one, I'm happy is here. Or, hey, we'll be right back because we were unplugging the server systematically in the middle of the event. And anyway, so I'm very glad that this is a nice little tool that I like to see is right there.
Well, especially since we tend to, like you or I, we alternate each month, we'll go ahead and we'll actually create the event, and it might be 2-3 weeks ahead of time.
Right.
But then you're right, something could happen, but you can very easily come into the events. That is a nice little feature, that alert. And so if they go to that YouTube page, it'll actually say that whatever that message you chose.
And then the other thing is I'll come here to view on watch page, and I'm just gonna, when I do this, I'm gonna hit pause. Otherwise it'll be playing sound while we're playing sound. And we actually could sit and watch us live watching this, which is kind of interesting. But this is where live chat, so anyone who's watching can come over here, or they can add questions in. So if you are watching, even if you're not in the Hangout, if you're watching it, you can come over here and ask questions. When we did the GMath one, some of the math teachers came on here and they were asking questions, or sometimes they're just helping us out saying, hey, Jen, you need to click on your thumbnail. We can't see your face. I'm like, oops, sorry. So this is where you can join in the event, even if you're not inside the Hangout itself. When live chat in a live YouTube event, you can come here and you actually can ask questions just by watching. You don't have to be in the Hangout. Now, when we start this and we share it out with other people, there's a link that we get, and it opens up in Hangouts. It doesn't open up inside YouTube. It starts, the live events are created in YouTube, but it opens up inside Hangouts, and you're going to see, here's my Hangout that I'm in right here, and the link we just give out to, or we can actually add someone to the Hangout just like you normally do, where you can share. Normally we send the link, both Craig and I send the link that comes up to everyone. That seems to be a little bit easier. But we can actually also just, it's a normal Hangout. So once you're inside, as you can see, it's a normal Hangout where I can mute myself, turn off my video, change my bandwidths, and hang up. But, and I can invite other people from here as well. So even though the live events is started in YouTube, they actually open in a Hangout. So for other people who join in, for them, it's the same experience as a regular Hangout. And it's no different for that person on the other side. It looks, so for Christine, when you jumped in, it was a regular Hangout, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Right. And
yeah, she wouldn't have known that we went to YouTube to actually create it unless she knew that ahead of time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So I'm going to go ahead and stop right here.
Okay.
And I'm going to probably jump out, and thank you. Thank you, Christine, for joining us today and
welcome.
for running this one. I'm going to go take care of a sick child, and thank you everyone else who's watching.
All right, we'll see you later.
Good luck.
Have a good one. So the other things that I want to actually make sure that people are aware of. All right, Chris, can you see my screen?
I can.
All right, so typically if you go to YouTube, you may not realize, but if you click on the hamburger over here and go to my channel, that's where Jen was just at, and then she clicked Video Manager. So the one thing I do want to make sure people understand, when you actually are doing a live stream event, and you are trying to join, you want people to join in, someone has, a friend of mine has told me that they went ahead, they started the Hangout, and inside the Hangout, that's where they grab the link. So if I'm here and I want to grab the link, I can click the invite people, and I can grab this link, and join in. But for some reason that link wasn't working when they went back in, and I don't know if it's because it was a live event and they started it ahead of time. So the way that Jen and I, and she had mentioned this, work is when we're ready to start the Hangout 15 minutes before we actually go live, one of us will go in, we'll start the Hangout, and this is where we'll add people, or we also copy the link, put it in an email, send it to those that are actually going to participate in the Hangout. So again, this link is completely different than the link that people get when they're watching the Hangout. So this is the actual link that we shorten, that we tell everyone, hey, come watch us. So that I just want to make sure that is clear. And then the other thing is, many people don't know that Hangouts actually exists on its own page. And so to get there, on the top left, you'll see it says hangouts.google.com, and it has a very clean interface. What I think is really neat is Google pulls images from people that have actually posted. So you can see right here, it's shared on Google+. So if I hit refresh here, I bet I'm gonna get something different. I hope I get a different message. Yep, or a different picture. I do right there. But basically, let's say Chris had said she created her events in Google Calendar, and she set up the time. But let's say it's on the fly, and you just want to be able to say, oh, you know what, I'm gonna text Chris right now real quick. I'm gonna tell her, hey, I'll be on in 5 minutes. Let's join in on a Hangout. I don't have to go to Calendar, although you can. I could just say, you know what, I'm gonna create a phone call, and then it'll ask you to enter a name. Basically what you see over here is these are some of the actual meetings that are set in my own calendar right now. Right now, we have NHGEG. There's a 6 o'clock appointment on Intercession, but I'm not going to open up one of those. I could, but I'm just going to say test with NHGEG, and then go ahead and just do the arrow. And then, oh, it's not going to, do you still see my screen, Chris?
I do.
Okay.
I see the take me there and the other call actually is what I see right now.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah. So
Yes.
I'm not going to go any further because I don't want to end our Hangout. But normally what would happen is it would just be a blank canvas Hangout, and then it'll say, you're the only one here. And it'll say, you know, have other people join. And so I can physically type in Chris's email address. So that's another way by which you can do Hangouts. You can do it from the calendar. You can do it from hangouts.google.com. And if you're going to do the live, you can do it right through YouTube. So there's lots of different ways. Chris, I don't know if you want to talk about, and I'm going to put you on the spot here,
Okay.
how other teachers have used it within the district to meet with or to interact with other classes. I don't know if you want to talk upon that.
So I'm just going to use the example you shared with me today, Craig, because I think that's a great one. We had a teacher who's never used Hangout actually, and she is supposed to have, I know you saw on Craig's calendar, he has an intercession meeting at 6 o'clock. So what that is a teacher who is going on a field trip with some students had a meeting tonight with some parents, and no surprise, we may get snow. So she actually decided rather than everybody having to travel out, she was going to try to do a parent meeting actually through a Hangout, which is very cool because I don't know that we've ever done that, especially with people outside of the school. You know, there are teachers who are just learning how to use it in their classrooms, but she created a link, sent an email to the students and all of their parents, and so she's going to attempt tonight to actually have that meeting with parents and students at 6 o'clock where people don't have to travel in the bad weather. So I think that's a great example of a teacher trying to use it, thinking outside the box.
Sure, and fingers crossed that it works well for her.
Right.
And you know what? But hey, it's all about taking risks and all about trying it out, because you don't know what you don't know unless you try it. So other examples, I know that you can obviously have a guest speaker join in with a Google Hangout if they can't make it, or let's say you want to talk to a scientist and they're not in the state, you can do a Google Hangout that way. We've seen instances where some teachers will actually do a Hangout with elementary teacher class in the same district. Like you don't have to think like beyond, you know, states or miles and miles and miles away. I mean, how many times does a teacher get to say that they've interacted with other students and other teachers within their own district? So there's many ways that Hangouts can be used. And I think the last thing that I want to showcase with Hangouts is there is this thing called mystery Hangouts. And so I'm going to share my screen yet again. And there is a direct link here in our resource document. So what you see right here is a Google community, and it's called Mystery Hangout. So how I got here if you're unfamiliar with Google Hangouts, or sorry, with Google Communities, is I just went to Google plus.google.com, and you can just search, what was that? Was it Mystery Hangouts?
Yes.
I just searched Mystery Hangouts. Right here, so you'll see that there's over 7,000 people who have joined this community. There's also one for foreign language teachers or world language teachers, mystery location calls. There's many different titles that people give it. But if I actually go into this mystery hangout, these are people, these are educators who actually want to converse with other classrooms in the world. So you'll see right here, someone says, anyone interested in doing a hangout with Ontario tomorrow, Thursday, anytime from 9:30 to 11 Eastern time. So, hey, I could be interested. Oh, maybe they're going to speak French. I'm a French teacher. And basically, there's some guidelines, and there's a Google Doc, I believe, in this hangout, or this community, that talks about like what you do. And students ask the other classes questions, and they try and figure out where in the world or where in the country they're talking with, who they're talking with. So it can be a very educational way beyond pulling in a guest speaker or beyond interviewing people. So that again, that's just called Mystery Hangout. Those of you who use Skype, I know they have a similar version of that. Resources and different, but as I keep scrolling here, you'll just see that people are asking for others to participate with their own classes, and you'll see that it's broken up by Pacific time, Central time. So down here, there's a how to do the hangout, how to sign up, some examples, and then if I'm only interested in Eastern time zone, I'll see the people who've posted. So someone a week ago posted in there, this person's from Massachusetts right there. So just a really, really cool way of interacting with others.
While you were talking, I actually thought we had a really good guest speaker experience 2 years ago, and we repeated it last year. We did it 2 years ago through Skype. The teachers last year did it through Google Hangouts, so they actually transitioned because it was easier now that we're using everything in the Google platform. And it was a Roots of Thought, a humanities freshman class, and they had read a political piece. It was an essay written by Kenneth C. Davis, who's a historian. And after the kids read it, they had questions actually about it. And the teacher said, well, rather than me trying to tell you what I think that means, let's see if Kenneth C. Davis can tell us what it means. So they actually set up an appointment, and they projected him in the classroom, on the front board, and the kids were asking him questions, raising hands. He was calling on kids. It was very cool because it was a totally interactive experience where I know that would not have been able to happen had it had to be a guest speaker in person. It's hard for guest speakers to come. I think about how a high school operates, and we have blocks of time where it's an hour, and so there's not a lot of flexibility, and guest speakers sometimes can't give up a whole day. But
Sure.
when you say to them, we only need you from 9 to 10, and they can book that in an otherwise busy day, there's a lot more availability to get people like that in front of kids, which is great.
Sure. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was.
I
It was
did
neat.
not know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. Is there anything else you can think of, Chris, that you wanted to mention, or newbies who've never done it before that, that
No, I was just looking through my notes to make sure that I, had the things I wanted to touch on. The biggest thing I would say, honestly, is don't be afraid to try it, because, Craig, I come to you with these questions all the time, and I feel like every time I do something in Hangout, I learn something new that helps me next time I want to use a Hangout. And so you just get more confident using it once you use it more. So, no, I appreciate it because I find it really helpful, and I wouldn't have expected it to be as easy as it is until I started using it.
Sure.
And I used it really out of necessity when it was interviews, but now I agree with you, on a snow day, it would be great, instead of coming into town for a meeting, to be able to sit and, not lose a day. We've lost, 5 days this year so far. And so rather than losing those days, you can stay productive by continuing to have meetings through Hangout.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then, so the other thing, so I'm going to do a tip, and it looks like we are going to end a little early today. I know some of you might be disappointed, but it's reality. We're going to end a little early today. So I'm going to share my screen one more time. Don't mean to make you all sick or anything. Okay. So, all right. So do we see, Chris, you can see yourself, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So the one thing I want to make sure people understand some logistics. So do you see my cursor at the bottom?
Yes.
Over the boxes?
I do.
Okay, so here's a little tip that when you're actually doing a Hangout, and so we had 3 of us in this particular Hangout. There have been times where we've had 10. And before we actually do a Hangout and we hit the live button, we have a conversation with all the people that have joined the panel. And we want to make sure that there's no going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So the way to make sure that your mic doesn't activate your actual computer, at the very bottom, do you see that pop-up window?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
We always recommend that people actually hit the mute button. And so by doing that, let's say Chris was talking right now, and I decide to start coughing up a storm here, it would actually show it'll actually, if the camera's on my face, it'll actually show me, because the system is thinking that I am talking. But in reality, I'm just in the background listening to Chris just coughing up a storm. So if you're in a group of people in a Hangout, and it's not just with 2 people, the trick is to just mute yourself. And then when you're ready, you just then unmute when it's time to, but you'll see, I think Jen even said, oh, it would help if I unmute myself. And maybe that was earlier when just the 3 of us were talking. So that's a good little tip. And then the last thing, now Chris is happy because her face isn't on anymore.
That's right. Little me looks better than big me.
Something new that came out, I think it was last week or the week before. And this was a feature that a lot of us really wanted. When you're in Google Slides and you want to insert a video, before this update, you could only pull in things from YouTube. But now Google has recognized that people do upload things to their drive, and they have videos in their drive. And so now a student can actually embed or insert, I should say, a actual video from their drive rather than only solely doing it from YouTube. So that's just a little exciting thing. And since it was video related, we thought we would show that tip. And so that actually is, as I'm looking at this, I'm like, what is this video? That was when I was in Salzburg 2 summers ago. Great place. But I'll delete that now. So I think that's pretty much covered everything. And I'm looking at my notes here. Yeah, I think we've covered everything. So our next meeting is the third Wednesday of next month. I'm going to pull up my calendar real quick, and I believe that is going to be March 22nd is going to be, hey, it's exactly a month from today, March 15th, Wednesday, March 15th, and I believe the topic is going to be on blogging, how you can use Blogger to share your story. So we hope you can join us, and that's it for now. Stay safe, everyone. Enjoy the weather out there, and we'll see you later.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chris, for joining.
Yep.